To the war now, Donald Trump says a big wave of strikes is yet to come on Iran. He says the war could last weeks, it could go on a while. Have a listen to his latest comments.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And we have, right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored.
In Lebanon, 31 people have been killed in a wide-ranging air assault by Israel. The attacks are in response to missiles fired at Israel from the Iranian-backed militia group Hezbollah. And 3 US fighter jets were accidentally shot down by Kuwaiti air defences in an apparent friendly fire incident. All crews ejected and are in a stable condition. In an update from the Pentagon, US Defense Secretary or US War Secretary Pete Hegseth says they have not ruled out boots on the ground, calls on the Iranian people to use this opportunity to overthrow the leadership.
We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it. We hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time.
Now, we're going to speak to a national security expert out of the University of New Haven in just a few moments, Dr. Matthew Schmidt, about that exact point. Boots on the ground, does it matter? How does it play into warfare and modern war like the one that we're seeing in Iran right now? Let's go to the UK now, where Sir Keir Starmer is defending his decision to not involve Britain in the initial strikes against Iran. He's been criticised by Trump for not doing so.
We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. Any UK actions must always have a lawful basis and a viable, thought-through plan. I say again, we were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now.
But this is the problem for countries like the UK and others in Europe. They are allowing their bases to be used for defensive actions because they're sort of being dragged in now. Iran is kamikazing with its drones and with its missiles, hitting bases where British troops are stationed. You also have, by the way, 300,000 Brits living in countries that Iran is currently targeting. That's why you're seeing that action from the UK, despite the rhetoric in the House of Commons, 13 after 7. So what does the future of the Iranian regime look like? Dr. Matthew Schmidt is Associate Professor of National Security at the University of New Haven, joining us live from the US this morning. Great to have you on the program. Thanks for being with me.
It's great to be here, Ryan.
Can we start with the regime itself? You have looked at this for a very long time. What do you think is going to happen?
The problem with any kind of transition is that the Democratic opposition has no structure. There's no apparent leader that has control of any kind of armed force that could finish off what's left of the IRGC. So that's ultimately going to be the problem, which leaves sort of 2 large coalitions in the regime. One is like the moderates who would potentially unite underneath Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson, and the other would be the IRGC, just taking control as a security force and aligning itself underneath the son of the recently killed Khomeini.
So where does that leave, for your average Iranian family, where does that leave your leadership?
They don't know. That's part of the problem, the boots on the ground question. The average Iranian right now is just trying to pick up their kids from school, trying to keep their family safe. No one is really thinking about going out into the streets and being part of an armed force, because that's what it's going to take to finish off that mid-level and that lower level of the regime that's still operating in Iran. And Secretary Hegseth is wrong. You need boots on the ground. It's a question of whose boots. What he's saying is not American boots, but you need Iranians. You need Iranians in boots with guns to finish off the regime and to take control. And we're a long way from that, a long way from leadership to direct it.
Before we get there, obviously American involvement would need to, well, at some point will need to taper off. What does that look like, and what do we know about Iran's weaponry and their stockpile?
So we know that, before this weekend, Iran had something like 80,000 drones, maybe a couple thousand ballistic missiles. And what we're watching for now is the expenditure rate on both of those. People tend to worry about the ballistic missiles. They can reach, in theory, the southern part of Europe. But the PAC systems, the American Patriot systems, are pretty good at hitting those out of the sky. And the amount of drones we're talking about sounds really scary, but the hit rate on those drones, if you look at Iran, is something like 12, 15%. So most of those are going to be shot down by the various air defense systems. But it's a race between the air defense interceptors and the Patriot systems, or the Iron Dome in Israel, and the amount of drones that Iran still has left and can fire.
Which is lots, right? And they're still making them.
So I'm doubtful about that. I'm sure that those factories were primary targets in the air raids, and that 80,000 number is probably significantly lower because we're attacking those stockpiles. It's still going to be significant. It's still going to be in the tens of thousands, but they're firing 500, 1,000 of these things a day. So you're looking at 3 to 6 months at this rate before the expenditure goes out, and they're not going to fire them. They have to hold them back for a deterrent effect. So I think you'll see negotiations or revolution before then.
So how soon could we see that then? Weeks or days?
I think you're looking at weeks yet. Everybody is trying to consolidate. The regime is trying to decide, are they going to negotiate? Are the hardliners going to take control in the IRGC? And is there a democratic opposition, that suddenly emerges? Reza Pahlavi has about 30% support in the population at last polling. But again, there's no structure to organize that right now. But that could emerge in a matter of weeks. We just have to see. It's very fluid.
Just finally, we've seen revolution in 1979. We've seen the Brits and the Americans go in, try and overthrow the regime. Well, they did second time successfully in 1953. Mm-hmm. Long term for Iran, what is the picture like?
Well, long term, this regime is finished. At worst case, I think you end up with an Islamic republic that is moderated. I think you have a population that long term is emboldened. Once they can come out, they can get back to their lives. And they have a sense that, in several years, you have time now to organize some kind of opposition. So in the longest term, I think the Islamic Republic is finished. Whether that's in 6 months, a year, or 5 years, I think is a debatable question. But I don't think you're ever going to see anything come back to what you saw under the Ayatollahs.
Matthew, really appreciate your analysis this morning. Thanks so much for being with me. Dr. Matthew Schmidt, Associate Professor of National Security at the University of New Haven.